Hello, it's Lion here with Hobbies of a Man once again, and today we are doing another Kaiju number 8 video review. Now today we're going to be reviewing chapter 20, and sadly we won't have another chapter next week, but I will have something of a discussion ramble video, and I might even make some fan art in the background if I decide to do it that way. So we're going to do this the same way we usually do. I'm going to do a recap, I'm going to do a spoiler-filled discussion of the video, or of the chapter, where I tell you what happened, as well as some of my thoughts as I had them while reading, and then we'll talk theories at the end. Now, as always, if you want to see previous videos, please check it out in the playlist link up there. I'll also put it in the description if I remember. And yeah, let's just jump into the recap now. So, the last couple of chapters were basically about Kafka fighting this humanoid kaiju. And specifically in the last one, Kafka ends up beating the kaiju and then gets distracted by the GDF when they show up and say, hey, we found the humanoid kaiju, which is weird. Like, why did they notice Kafka and not the other guy? I guess they did notice him. It just wasn't, like, he wasn't a threat, so they didn't bother with him. But eventually he manages to escape because Kafka was distracted. And Kafka decides that he has to run away too, because otherwise he's going to have to hurt people in the GDF, and he doesn't want to do that. So he dips out. While he's trying to find a place where he can transform back into Kafka and show up and be like, hey, how's everyone doing? Hoshina runs into him, and a battle commences. And, you know, Hoshina even gets that, like, Renegon-looking eye thing, which I thought was going to play a bigger role in this week's chapter, but it really didn't, so that kind of sucks. So let's just jump into the spoiler-filled section. If you do want to see a full review of last week's chapter, it's up there. Check it out, please. Now, chapter 20 has 20 pages in the chapter, and they go by really, really fast because it's all kind of action shots. And so there's a lot of thought and talking that goes on, but you can read through it really quickly because it's just like slashing. They're like slashing and blocking for most of the time, so it's not really that difficult to read. I think this chapter focused on a lot of quick action, and there was slight development, you know, plotline wise and character wise, but basically it was just a bit of action to get our blood pumping, and between plot development, because I think that this manga is trying to be very long running, and so a lot of the stuff that's happening is interesting and exciting, and it has good enough action to keep you entertained, but it's like going slowly and slower than we think, and it's trying to build up a big, like, what's it called? A big, like, setup before it, like, dives into the issues, and I really respect it. I think it's great. But right now we're kind of not having that much of a payoff in terms of action, right? So kind of sucks in that sense, but I'm excited for the whole thing overall. So basically we start where the last one ended off. You know, Hoshina's on the ground, crouching, ready to slash at our boy Kafka. And yeah, Kafka's worried. He's like concerned because it's like, if he, like, destroyed Kaiju with one punch, he's going to kill a human with, like, a flick of his finger, and it's going to suck because he doesn't want to kill Hoshina. He wants to be friends with him and stuff, right? So that's kind of how it goes. Yeah, so he knows a single punch is going to kill Hoshina, and he doesn't want to do that. But while he's distracted thinking about this, Hoshina attacks him, and it's cool. I mean, I really like Hoshina's style with the guns. I think it's a bit, well, I guess it's not really that contrived. It's not very different from any other series where people destroy dragons and crap with, you know, conventional old school medieval style weapons. It's just, like, kind of wild because, I don't know, for some reason it feels a lot more real this time. And I guess it is because it's sci-fi, not fantasy. But it's kind of wild that he manages to hurt Kafka. And yeah, so Kafka's kind of worried because he's afraid that he will die if he holds back. Because if you are way more powerful than your opponent, but you're trying to not hurt them and they're trying to kill you, you're going to die, right? It's just like mathematically, it makes sense that you're going to die if you're holding back and your enemy's actually trying to kill you. So he's worried about that. And while he's kind of doing that, we get the kaiju fibers explained to us. Apparently, it's basically like kaiju cells, fibers, and stuff are like embedded into the suits. And when you unleash your combat potential, it activates them. And the higher your potential is, the more activation you get across the board. And so you basically become kaiju-esque while you're wearing the suit and you have your powers activated, which is cool. I mean, I understand that, and I think it's a very interesting, you know, fire fights fire policy that I don't really think is bad. It's very common in my opinion, so it all works really nicely. And yeah, Hoshina's he's badass, and he's got this inhuman power because of the kaiju stuff. And yeah, he's doing a lot of quick cuts, fast slashes, and Kafka can't harden his body quick enough, and so it's kind of hard. Apparently, he's even faster than the humanoid kaiju. And of course, earlier Kafka was like, you know, I thought Kikoru was amazing. This guy's on another level, right? Which is pretty awesome. We get some good power scaling right now going on. It seems to be exponential. Like, Reno's at 20-something%. He's exponentially weaker than Kikoru, and Kikoru is exponentially weaker than Hoshina and Mina, which is interesting. Although it kind of doesn't make sense at the top levels. Like, how is someone that's 92% power potential or 97% able to take down full high-level kaiju? It's a little weird there. It's a little wonky, but I mean, we'll probably get more explanation of that as we go on. But yeah, so Hoshina uses this thing called Air Slicer, which is like a secret kaiju technique or whatever, which is pretty cool. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I think it's fun, and it's a shonen series. You always have to have those special punches, right? So it's pretty awesome. And yeah, it basically cuts Kafka because the sword slashes, and then it releases some air or like a vibration from how fast it moved, and so it cuts ahead of Kafka. This is very interesting. It kind of reminds me of vibroblades from The Mandalorian and from Star Wars. And if you guys want to check out a cool video about that, I mean, you guys should check out Shadiversity's video. I think the techniques that are, you know, explained there are very similar to how the Air Slicer works in what we just saw Hoshina do. What else is there? Okay, so yeah, he cuts his hand off, and then he finds Kafka's kaiju core, which is interesting. I wouldn't assume that Kafka had a kaiju core. I guess that would be his heart. So Kafka uses his kaiju powers to heal his hand, and it takes up a lot of his stamina, which is tough, right? And yeah, it's a big power drain. And then Kafka starts upping the amount of effort he uses, as well as Hoshina, because Hoshina's like moving faster and faster and attacking him harder, and Kafka is having to keep up. And so what he's doing is just like deflecting the blade, you know, well enough that it doesn't hit him without actually harming Hoshina, sorry. And Hoshina is kind of surprised. He's worried about what this is and why this is happening. He basically mentions, you know, this is crazy. Why is this guy so good? He must be a very powerful kaiju. And he mentions the whole Daikaiju higher than 8.0% whatever thing again, which feels like a plot inconsistency to me, because Hoshina was there last time Kaiju number 8 showed up, and they called him a Daikaiju. But I guess last time they said it was a problem with the system, and so this time he's confirming it, but the way that it was translated doesn't make that plausible. It doesn't sound like that. So I'm not really sure what's going on. I might have to tweet at Viz Media and ask them about it. It might be like a translation problem or like a, just something to do with how the phrasing was made instead of like a continuity issue that the author made. I'll have to check and see what's going on with that. But yeah, that's basically it for that. I mean, he's just kind of worried and he's like feeling uneasy, and he tries to ignore it and just kind of prepares for this big attack, which is super awesome. He does a double slash, and it makes like a giant air in X in the air as he like moves forward. But apparently it was like a feint, which is a technique where you make it seem like you're going somewhere and then you go somewhere else to attack. But it doesn't work because Kafka knew that, as soon as he detected his core, he's going to try to attack it a lot. And so Kafka manages to stop the blade with like this mouth that comes out of his stomach. And then he goes to punch Hoshina, and Hoshina's really worried. He's like, okay, this is where I die. Then, you get to the next panel and he punches the sword instead of Hoshina. So Hoshina is not dead, but he's without a weapon. And, Hoshina's reeling because he's like, okay, I didn't die. What's going on? And then Kafka disappears. And, yeah, it's very good. I really enjoyed it. After he disappears, he calls it in. He's like, yeah, Kaiju number 8 disappeared. Mina is shown, and she kind of worried with a worried face. And Hoshina is too. And then we get a nice, like, color page at the end, which is pretty cool. I mean, it wasn't that great because it wasn't like a close-in of any character. It was just kind of like ambient stuff, which is okay. I mean, I didn't dislike it, but I would have liked it better if it was something that was actually relevant to a specific character. But it's all good. So now onto the theories. Now, the first thing I do want to mention again is that whole issue with Hoshina acting surprised about the Kaiju thing again, because he was there when it was said originally. But I guess it's a difference in how it was said, because at the first time that they mentioned it in like chapter 6, I think, or 7, it was because they said it was a problem with the machine. They said, okay, this machine is reading this Kaiju level and it's way out of the ballpark. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. This is huge. And then everyone's like, yeah, it must be an error because otherwise there'd be a Dai Kaiju and we don't have those right now. But I mean, the way that it was said this time made it seem like it was the first time he was encountering this, which it wouldn't be. It would have made sense if it was more like, so like a revelation or an understanding that the Dai Kaiju reading from last time was the same as Kafka's, instead of like him trying to act like it's the first time that it's happened, right? And it's really weird that there's registering of power levels, but he could tell based on how many sword slices he could dodge. That's kind of odd, and it's a little wacky, but I mean, it works, I guess. But yeah, now, my theory here, because I've been pushing and thinking that we're always going to get Kafka to reveal himself rather soon. And now I'm kind of realizing that that doesn't really help. The story would pay off way more if we let this situation continue for, another 60 chapters or so, and get like this like close-knit group and maybe have them go through some struggle where like someone dies or something. And then Kafka shows them, or it's revealed, or they find out that Kafka is a kaiju, because that way the emotional payoff is going to be way bigger than it is right now, right? Because right now, besides Reno and Kikoru, no one really cares about Kafka. So it won't really be a bad thing. They'll just want to be like, okay, well, he's a kaiju, let's kill him, right? But if it's like 80 chapters in and they've already been together for like months, maybe years, and they're like working together and suddenly they find out that Kafka's a kaiju, it would be way more devastating for them as characters, and it like up the ante and the importance of it for us, the readers, way more that way. So I think that as much as I would like for the story to move fast and tell us, what happens when Hoshina and Mina and everyone figures out that Kafka is a kaiju, it doesn't really work for the story if they do so fast. So, you know, that's my theory, is that it's going to be a very slow process, and we're going to take a long time for the initial, like, kaiju mystery thing to be resolved, which is good. I mean, I think it's better in the long term, if it's a long-running series, for it to be a slow process, right? Because in Naruto, it took, like, what, 100 and something chapters before he figured out he had the fox demon inside him or something. I don't actually know how long, but it was at least like 100 episodes of the anime. Right? Yeah, I think it was like 150 episodes of the anime. So we can use kind of that as a basis. I think it would probably take a long time for that to work, and I'm okay with that. The other thing is, Hoshina is really intelligent. He'll probably end up figuring out something is fishy, but he won't know until, you know, it gets revealed to everyone. And I'm excited to see that kind of like slight cat and mouse game that we're gonna have between Hoshina and Kafka as he tries to figure out what's going on. And yeah, that's basically it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please do like, subscribe, and comment down below if you did. Let me know what you thought about the chapter. Let me know what you think about the new thumbnails. I would really appreciate it. Thank you guys very much. See you guys later.